Hello, and welcome back to another chapter of Watch Out for the Lucky by Too Much Sunshine on AO3. Chapter 10. Hey, Grian! A sudden voice directly in his ear made Grian almost fall out of his seat. The seat he was currently sitting in and trying to enjoy his breakfast before a very important meeting. The council has not been talking to him nearly as much recently, and he couldn't figure out why. It was frustrating to him to no end, but that wasn't Scar's fault. So, with a measured breath, he turned in his seat and gave the loud man a pleasant smile. Hello, Scar. How was your training today? The hero in training had been with them for almost a year now, but at least once a week he still had routines to do to make sure he was ready to become a full-blown hero among Bodom. Great! I only missed a few targets, but I wasn't really trying, so... He trailed off, giving Grian a mischievous wink. It had been a few days since Scar had revealed his secret power to the Bodom crew. Somehow, he had hidden it from the association, which, honestly, probably wasn't hard, since it was something Grian nor the rest of them had ever heard of. Grian huffed a laugh at his goofiness. He will never understand Scar's ability to be silly in almost any situation. The public had a problem with him sometimes because of it, saying he wasn't serious enough. Boredom liked the levity. I'm glad. How did you get into my room again? Crane smiled, turning back to his cereal. He heard Scar laugh, pulling the bar chair out from beside Grian and plopping down onto it. Well, why keep your door unlocked if you don't want company? While his original plan had been to sit and sulk at the council's lack of communication, Scar had a point at company being better. There was no point in having the "Scar, stop sneaking into our rooms" talk with him again, as evidenced by Scar being here in his room without permission. You make a good point. Green laughed along, finishing his bowl and pushing it back to deal with later. He jumped off his chair, raising his arms over his head, hearing the crack of each of his bones. His wings fluttered out as well, content chirps spilling from his lips. With a calmed coo, he turned to face Scar, who was looking at him with poorly contained awe. It made him smile. It wasn't too long ago now that people used to sneer at his wings and tell him to get them out of the way. Working on the Hybrid Acceptance Act was one of the highest points in his career, that's for sure. And that was years ago now. He's glad he can be himself with his friends in public now. He sends a coo Scar's way, pleased at his pink cheeks at being caught staring. Scar is still dressed in his hero uniform, loose-fitting shorts covered with a long green dress robe thing. A slit up the side would typically show off his boots, but he seems to have taken them off whenever he snuck into Grian's room. The very flowy and comfortable-looking nature of his outfit makes Grian jealous sometimes. He also got to wear a dress, well, a robe, but it was heavy and thick. Scar also still had his bow around his shoulder, though his quiver was nowhere to be found. Must have forgotten it there. I wish I was good at archery, Grian spoke, shocking them both. He felt his cheeks go pink as Scar's. I mean, all I have is my wings. I can't really do anything else. He trailed off. As the leader of Bodom, he shouldn't be talking about this, especially to the newest member, but it just slipped out. He had always wanted to try and shoot like Scar, but was too embarrassed to even ask. He doesn't know what brought this out now. I can teach you. Scar spoke before Grian could go too far into his head. I know I use my power and combo with it a lot, but I'm still good without it. And the association gave me tons of bows, just like this one. I'll give you one and we can practice at night. It'll be fun. He was practically vibrating in his chair with excitement. It was sweet, if a bit naive. But it wouldn't hurt to say yes. As long as nobody saw him, then there should be no issues with him learning something he shouldn't. Plus, it would make Scar a better leader too. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, we can start tonight. Green nods his head with a smile. Scar practically explodes, his smile blinding as he claps happily. He opens his mouth to tease him about how excited he is when he hears his front door open without a knock. Spinning around, he sees the rest of Bodom walk through the door without a second thought. They all have their own version of Watcher's mask on, as customary when meeting with the council. He narrows his eyes, lifting his wings, and put on an annoyed chitter. Does anyone knock around here, or is it just me that gets walked in on? He taps his foot on the ground as they finally look up at him. Why have the door unlocked if you don't want company? One of them countered, immediately sending Scar into a fit of laughter. That's what I said! You get it! Scar got up from his chair to give each of them a hug, which was reciprocated. You are all ridiculous, he said, even if his smile gave away his true feelings. To be fair, we are here to pick you up and go to the council meeting, Red points out, fixing his tie after Scar's enthusiastic hug. Meeting? Scar tilts his head like a puppy. I didn't know there was a meeting. That's because you weren't invited. Moonlight laughs as Scar pouts. Why not? He frowns. Green sighs, getting his mask ready and lightly preening his wings. They've been over this 100 times, but Scar just doesn't seem to get it. You aren't ready yet, Scar. You haven't even been here for a year. You'll get your time, but for now, we will handle the meeting, and you can continue to refine your skills. Green states. Scar stops sighs flopping onto Green's couch. Yeah, you're just a baby! Moonlight laughs, walking over to pinch his cheeks as he protests greatly. It's real boring stuff, mate. You wouldn't like it anyways. Red smiles. Yeah, really. We're saving you from having to go. Mighty laughs heartedly. As the three of them walk out the door, Green is the last to leave. Taking one last look into his room, Scar has sat up and looks at him as he leaves. He looks defeated. It makes something twist inside Green, but he can't put his talent on it. Scar isn't ready yet. Still immature. It's for the best. The door clicks as he closes it. He feels bad. He falls behind the rest of Bodom, and they go into the elevator. Have they always treated Scar that way? He didn't. Green once again shot up in his bed. His hair plastered to his forehead and heart all but beating out of his chest. Another dream? Another way too realistic dream? What was going on? This one also left a bad taste in his mouth and bad feeling in his chest. They were so dismissive of Scar. Sure, he was young, but so were they. Why would they do that? There's no way. He refuses to believe it. It was just a dumb dream playing off the weird coincidence of the last one. He reached a hand over, feeling for his pigeon moon. Upon his hand gripping her, he brought it to his chest, feeling his breathing even slightly. He doesn't like waking up this way. It made him feel gross and wrong, like he was in the wrong body or missing something huge. But there was literally nothing wrong, so where were these dreams coming from? Sighing, Green turned his head to the window. The sun was peeking over the horizon, or at least he assumed, as the buildings and skyline were in the way. It was bright enough that he could take an educated guess. His alarm must have not gone off for some reason, if he was able to see the light of the sun instead of the darkness of right before. Dropping Moon back onto the sheets, he slides his legs off his bed, deciding some music will help him feel better. He knows that he has to meet with Cub soon, So he changes his clothes into something somewhat presentable before stumbling to his coffee table. He sleepily searched for his favorite record, placing it on the spinner and putting the needle on before crashing onto his couch. He was right about the music making him feel better, but it didn't stop his brain from thinking, ugh, why was this all happening now? What changed? Nothing! Nothing changed! Yet he feels so weird. At some point, he finally heard a knock on his door. He already knew who it was. He also knew his door was unlocked. Maybe he could test something. Come in, he shouted from the couch, not bothering to get up. He does stretch his hand to the coffee table to turn the switch to the music off, leaving him in comfortable silence. It took a few moments, but he slowly heard the door creak open. He heard some footsteps and the door close before the footsteps started coming closer. They stopped near Grian's feet, probably horribly confused at why Grian was face down on his own couch. He turned his face from the cushions to be able to look at Scar. He was correct. The man looked confused, but also amused. So that's a win in Grian's book. My door was unlocked, he mused, gaining Scar's attention to his face. The hero walked closer, crouching near his head, tilting his head. That it was. Too comfortable to get up and let me in, pesky bird. Or are you sick? He gives a small smile, slowly reaching out and gauging Grian's face. And upon Grian giving no reaction, he pushed some of his hair behind his ear. It made his oral feathers tickle, then twitch, and react without much thought. Then he smacked his hand away. He just laughed and pulled his hand back as Grian rolled his eyes. I'm okay, just tired. Why didn't you just come in? Grian asked. His smile turned fully confused. Well, it would be rude to just walk in, Bertie. Are you sure you're okay? He laughs. Grian narrows his eyes. He's looking around Scar, trying to find any body language that would suggest he's catching on. All he saw was a wholly confused hero who was looking over him, as if trying to sense what was wrong. Well, why would my door be unlocked if I didn't want company? He spoke kindly, freezing Scar in place like a real-life buffering. He looked at Grian's face with such confusion, mixed with a bit of shock before he shook his head, unsticking himself with a nervous laugh. Well, I suppose that's a great point. He brings his arms up to nervously scratch his neck, looking anywhere except for Grian. Well then, that is odd. Very odd. But it has to be another coincidence, because if it's not, then he has no clue what else it could possibly be. Nor does he want to even think of what else it could mean. So he pulled his arms under himself to finally sit up from the couch. He stretches, his wings fluttering behind him, but not spreading out any further than necessary. He catches a few feathers out of place, and when he looks over to Scar, he sees that has stood up and is looking down at him. He has a sad look across his face as he stares past Grian and his wings. A vision of a winged man that he's looking through the eyes of flashes in his head. That hero preens and chirps whenever he wants. Ugh, fine, he'll take care of himself or whatever. With a huff, he pulls his wing into his lap, fixing the biggest feathers out of place. When those few are done, he shakes it out a bit before folding them back behind himself. Unfortunately, that does, in fact, feel much better. An unrestrained chirp falls from his throat, and upon gazing up at Scar, it looks like he couldn't be happier. I don't want to be late. Grian stands up, paying Scar no mind. It was embarrassing enough to have someone care for you. He doesn't want to draw more attention to it. Of course. I know Cub will have a lot to say. Scar seems chipper for this time of morning, especially considering yesterday's escapades. Then again, the Scar that Grian keeps dreaming about That wording makes him cringe, like he's having weird dreams when in reality the dreams are borderline nightmares. It was very upbeat and chipper. Was very. The scar in front of him now always had a resigned look to him that he never paid attention to before. Sure, he smiled and laughed and was a general nuisance, even if he found it endearing. But there was also a serious air to him that wasn't really seen in those dreams. Dreams. They're just dreams. He needs to remember that. That Scar and this Scar are not the same person. His weird conscience just is pulling things from Scar's most notable personality traits, and that's why that Scar is weird. Because it's not real and totally just a weird coincidence. One big coincidence. You coming? At some point while he was lost in thought, Scar had walked back to his front door. He's standing there waiting for Green to move. He has a small frown on his face, yet seems conflicted about something. Deciding that won't do, Green finally stands up and trails over to the door. Of course, let's get this over with, he playfully groans, trying to relieve the weird tension that he purposefully accidentally put over them. Though, in doing so, he starts to relive some of the anxiety from yesterday. Oh, it won't be so bad, Scar laughs, seemingly grateful for the change of topic as well. Cup seems scary, but he really isn't. They, again, get into the elevator. Green knows this place has stairs, and he's getting real tired of this damn elevator. You literally just told me he has high-level power and currently he's mad at me, Green points out as he crosses his arms. He raises an eyebrow at Scar as the man purses his lips. Maybe so, but... He pulls over the first part, pointing at Green with finger guns. He's a lover, not a fighter. It makes Green laugh, breaking through some of the anxiety he was feeling from this meeting. Oh, Hawkeye, please protect me from the villain cub. Green plays along, placing the back of his palm against his forehead and falling against the wall as if he's about to faint. He's terribly mad at me, and I am but a mere powerless hybrid. I stand no chance. Fear not, citizen. I will protect you from the evil vexed. But, oh no! Green opens an eye, glancing at Scar. He has both his hands on his face, making an O shape with his mouth, and raised eyebrows. I have forgotten my bow! We might just be doomed! He gasps. Green breaks character to burst out in chirpy laughs, raising his hands to try and cover his mouth as his wings flutter around him. I imagine saying that to someone. Oh my god. He doubles over, wiping his eyes. They are so scared, and you think they'll help, but psych, sorry, forgot my bow, you're on your own. See ya! I would never. You are different. I just leave you. I would never help someone as low as you. But I am as cool as I am. Scar huffs. He too is laughing, but he crosses his arms anyways, pretending to be mad. Now this is more like what they do. How dare you? Green points over to Scar, his wings raised in faux defense, posed to fake attack the braggart hero when the elevator door opens. They look into Cub's office, expecting to see him already standing there with items floating in the air like normal. But instead they are greeted with a completely still, silent room. Cub's head was poking up from over the back of the chair, which was facing the window from behind his desk. Slowly, Green pulled his wings down and swallowed thickly. He dropped his arms looking at Scar, seeing he did much the same, clearing his throat and fixing his glasses. Okay, so great. He is nervous too. Take a seat, you two, Cub says with a leveled voice. Two chairs fly in from the sides of the room, place themselves in front of the desk, next to each other. Scar and Grian look at each other. Grian feels the grimace on his face, along with a boiling of anxiety that has found its place in his stomach again. Scar just stretches a fake yet endearing smile across his face, trying his best to make Grian feel better. Slowly, both of them make their way to the chairs, taking a seat. And maybe Grian pretends not to notice how Scar scoots his chair just a bit closer to him. They both silently watch Cub as he turns his chair dramatically towards them. Grian feels his heart stop, then restart all in 1 second when he sees the blinding smile stretched across Cub's face. He really starts to get annoyed at these Hero Association boys messing with his feelings, because what the hell is going on? Cub places his entwined hands on the desk, looking between Scar and Grian. It's still quiet, and Grian squirms in place, a bit at the feeling. Finally, Cub eyes land on him, making him sit still and smile nervously back. I owe you an apology. Again. He says not unkindly. It makes Grian actually freeze. Out of all the things he could have said, why would he need to apologize? Cub sighs but doesn't drop the smile. His eyes start to glow. It's his typical blue, and from down by his feet, magazines lift up and set themselves gently on the desk by Cub's hand. He looks over to Scar again, but as he looks, just as confused as he feels. Cub places his hand on the stack, pulling the top one off, holding it in front of his own face. I misjudged you, Grian. I didn't even give you or the public a chance before I condemned you both. For that, I am sorry. He flips through the magazine without glancing up. Grian feels wildly taken back. I'm sorry, but I'm still confused. Grian muses, playing with his fingers to relieve some pent-up anxiety. He wasn't in trouble, so at least there's that. No yelling, or anything about his wings, or makeup. So honestly, this was already going better than expected. Then again, yelling he knows how to deal with. This is just weird. He doesn't know where to go from here. Suddenly, the magazine that was in Cub's hand flew onto the desk in front of Grian. He hesitantly looks down at it, and his breath catches in his throat when he sees the cover. He feels Scar lean on his shoulder, looking down with him, and he too pauses at the image. There on the front cover is a picture of him scowling at the camera. His glasses perfectly reflect the sunlight, making them look like they are made of rose quartz instead of just pink glass. The light passing through makes his narrowed eyes shine brightly, and his makeup look fierce. He is standing tall and confident, radiant even though he was scowling. He had an air of mischievousness around him as he looked directly into the camera. Right behind him is Hawkeye, his face turned into a profile and looking directly in the direction of the sunlight. His arm was taken by Cute Guy, but he had his other hand up, waving with a dazzling smile. He looked directly opposite of Cute Guy, happy and almost innocent. But even then, it was like two kinds of opposite. Grian dressed like the cute one, yet with a scowl, while the hero dressed in dark colors was the nice one. The headline read, "Cute Guy is actually a bad boy?" along with a few smaller lines that Grian's eyes scanned with a dazzled look. Hot Guy and Cute Guy's new look. How to look like Cute Guy in 5 steps. Exclusive interview. That picture, he remembers, had to have been taken right outside the Hero Tower when he had forgotten to act the part of just a shudder too late. And now, here, that picture was on the front of a magazine praising him already. He felt his head spinning a bit as Scar took the pages from his hand. But just as that one disappeared, another was placed in his hand. This picture was the one where he was feeling cheeky, so he pulled on the string of Hawkeye's bow. They were both laughing and smiling, looking at each other rather than the cameras. Around this photo were a few of the ones that were released a couple days ago, specifically the ones where Cute Guy was looking mischievous. The headline read, "A sly, foxy hero to trust," in big yellow print. They liked him? They liked him! He felt a wave of relief flood his system. He was waiting to get fired, or for a smear campaign, or maybe at least for the people to hate him, but everyone seemed to like him, and they liked him alongside Hawkeye. He felt a smile slowly stretch across his face looking at the pictures. They were having fun in these pictures, you can just tell. Ha! A laugh jolted him out of his thoughts, making him jump a little. Dropping the magazine slightly to turn to Scar, he sees a similar smile on his face, along with a thick stack of magazines and newspapers next to him. He was holding one close to his face, pointing at the bottom corner with a wide smile. When he saw Grian watching him, he shoved himself forward with the paper, shoving it in his face. "Look!" He laughs before Grian could even read it. He excitedly pulls it back to read it to Grian himself. "Cute Guy and you, compatibility quiz, page 15. Grian feels his cheeks go pink. "No way! Give it here!" Grian jumps at Scar. He laughs and holds it out of his reach. "I don't think so. You're you. Of course you're compatible. But Cub and I have to know." He starts to open the magazine, but Grian scrambles out of his chair, trying to wrestle it out of his hands. They are both laughing. But Grian still feels his face continuing to heat up at the implications of thousands of teens reading this magazine. So he rather Scar not. Suddenly, just as Grian was finally getting the upper hand, the magazine turns a blue hue and it flies from Scar's hand. Looking over his shoulder back at the desk, he sees it fly into Cub's. He has a wide smile on his face, but it's mixed with contempt. Confused at why, Grian turns back and realizes the position he's in. He had moved from his chair and jumped into Scar's lap with one hand pushing Scar's face into the chair while he was reaching his hand at Scar's now empty hand. Scar is still giggling as he finally puts his hand down to push Grian off of him. With a huff at losing, he pulls back into his own seat, red-cheeked and twitching feathers. He crosses his arms but leans forward to catch a look at the other magazines on the desk. Cub had spread them out while they were fighting, and almost every single front cover was a picture of him. "This is why I'm sorry. Not even Hawkeye had this much media approval when he started. The people love you. Look." A few papers came into his view. One of them had a sideways spread of one of the photos from the photo shoot they had done last week. Hawkeye was laying on the ground, reaching his hand up to Cute Guy, who was standing over him, reaching out a clawed hand to help him up. They both had their bows in their other hands and smirks on their faces. The picture had been an accident. Scar had actually tripped and fallen. After Grian had laughed at him, he offered a helping hand up. "Read the headline of it." Cub pushed. Flicking his eyes up to it, Scar beat it to him with a huff. "The most trustworthy hero yet." "No way! I'm right here!" Scar scoffed. Cub rolled his eyes, passing him another newspaper. Grian leaned over to read it as well. It had a picture of the two of them on the red carpet, the one where Cute Guy was leaning away from Hawkeye, using his bowstring for balance. "The two to trust. Hawkeye and Cute Guy are the people's heroes." "Wow, are there any bad ones?" Scar passed the paper to Grian, who took it with slightly shaky hands. "Of course you would ask that," Grian smirked. "Upset I'm doing well?" he asked cheekily, as if he wasn't curious too. "Well, when Hawkeye debuted, there were a few bad papers." Cub pointed out, making Green put down the magazine he had in preparation for the one he assumed Cub would be giving him. But I haven't seen any bad papers so far. That took Green aback. None? None? Scar and Green spoke at the same time, making them both pause. No papers so far. Or if there are, I haven't seen them. But online is a different story. That makes sense. Anonymity did that to people, being able to say whatever they want with no face behind it. Damon posted his video. Oh, that made even more sense. Well, of course his cronies would. Scar starts, waving his hand dismissively before he's interrupted. I'm not done, Cub said. His smile somehow got wider. Because of what you said, Green. His video ended up getting taken down for hate speech, and has lost almost half of his followers on almost every account he has. He even deleted his Bitter account. I don't think we have to worry about him again. Both Green and Scar's jaws dropped. They looked at each other, totally shocked, blinking. Scar then turned to Cub, all but slamming his hand on the table playfully and standing up. He pointed at Cub with a poorly hidden smile. You're telling me that's all it took? And you told me to behave. He would have been gone so long ago if you just let me say what I think, he shouted. Cub raised his hands in a placating motion, though he was laughing as well. To be fair, if I let you speak your mind, you'd probably be in jail. Cute Guy did a good enough job for the both of you. He clapped his hands together, gathering all the magazines into a neat pile before floating them to the corner of his desk. Green watched Scar flop back down in his chair with folded arms, muttering something about, I'll show you jail, or some other poor comeback. That being said, when Tycoon debuted as Hawkeye, there was a fair bit of backlash. As I've told you before, Scar, you were coming off a bad situation. It was to be expected. Surprisingly, Scar had nothing to say. He looked vaguely uncomfortable in his seat, shuffling slightly with a small grimace. Green never really thought about that before. That must have been really hard, to debut as the #1 hero right after the others disappeared. Of course there must have been backlash, and of course the conversation topic would make him uncomfortable. On the other hand, Green was quite curious what his debut magazines looked like. So with a mischievous smile, he looked at Scar. The poor hero looked at him with a confused Cub? Green stretched without looking away from Scar. Can I see Hawkeye's debut magazines? He laughed as a realization flooded Scar's face along with a pink tint. I thought you'd never ask. It's good to compare the two, just to make sure you both are on track. From the other side of Cub, a smaller stack of magazines spread out on the desk for ease of Green's pursuing. Green was having a little trouble picking just one, but when Scar immediately reaches for one, Green beats him to it. There has to be a reason he didn't want Green to see this one. Much like Green had done earlier, Scar jumps over to him to try and grab it from his hands, but Green was prepared. He brought his feet up and pushed him by his chest back into his chair as he pulled the paper away to see the front cover. And, to be quite honest, he should have let Scar keep it. Green shouts, tossing the paper back onto the desk, face up, pulling his hands away like it burned him. There on the front page of Goodies Being Baddies magazine is a full hip-up picture of a younger-looking Hawkeye completely shirtless, flexing for the camera. Cub is laughing his ass off from across the desk, while Scar has his head in his hands, the tips of his ears bright red. The Gotcha headline read, Hawkeye's workout routine and relationship status inside. They made me take that picture, I swear! Scar hastily explained. He looked over to Green, who, upon seeing Scar's scarlet face, finally burst out in a crackling, chirpy laugh. I'm sure you just so against it. A smile on your face says differently. Laughs as he picks up the magazine up, pointing at Hawkeye, who is in fact smiling very sensually into the camera. Green starts to leaf through the magazine, landing on a page very similar to the one he did when Scar the Sea Eater. Do you have what it takes to become Hawkeye's secret sidekick? Take this quiz and find out. Damn. Green laughs, looking at Scar. I did it and I didn't even take this quiz. Wonder if it would have worked. Let's find out. Green looks back down, right as if flies from his hand. He lets out an annoyed chitter, which makes Scar actually laugh. And that's enough for that. I'll do the comparison for you. While Hawkeye had some mishaps, the public opinion of you both went over very well. I am proud of you both, Cub says, and he rounds up the rest of the papers and puts all of them under his desk. Green crosses his arms, but isn't actually upset, though it would have been funny to see what they would have said. Those were from 3 years ago, Birdie. I'm a changed man. Scar laughs, yet raises a hand to nervously scratch his neck. Ha! That's a laugh and a half, Mr. I'm so cool and handsome. Green punches his shoulder with a smile. Scar seems to release some tension he had since those magazines came out. Well, just 'cause I'm changed doesn't mean those things aren't true. He smirks, as Green barks an exasperated laugh. Now again, Cub starts getting both of their attention. He had a small smile on his face while he folded his hands in front of him on the desk. Green, I acted so poorly to you, and I can promise it will never happen again. I was thinking too much about being public relations and not enough about what you might be feeling or going through, or if you were even ready to be in front of that many people. I am sorry. He sounded so sincere, Green felt uncomfortable. He had felt most of his anger was deserved, and sure, Scar had remedied most of it last night. He wasn't expecting an apology. It's okay, I forgive you, he said, also sincere. Nothing to forgive. He laughed nervously, just hoping to move on. It made Scar look at him weird, and Cub pause. He felt his wings flutter at being stared at, but Cub just shrugged before pulling out a few papers from his desk. Green drew out a breath, and still feeling Scar's gaze on him, but he ignored it. It sucks that Scar can read his wings so well. He can never get away with anything ever again. Luckily, Scar didn't say anything. Well, pivoting off of that, you two are due for a mission. The room felt more serious now, replacing the excitement. Green pushed his wings further behind himself to sit further back in the chair. You are relieved of patrol duties, and after you leave this room, you are expected to start the mission. It sounded like he was reading off a script, and if by the look of Scar's face meant anything, he might actually be. I was given these papers from the council to give to you guys. I haven't read them and don't plan to. Come to me if you guys have any questions for the council or any updates. Otherwise, you two are on your own. Good luck, and remember, eyes in the skies, keep everyone safe, blah, 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 blah. Can we go now? Scar finished for Cub, who gave an exasperated huff. He handed Scar both papers with a roll of his eyes. He folded them and slipped them into his front pocket. You know what I have to say to that, Cub muttered, pulling out the clipboard and writing something on it. He supposed that was their cue to leave, as Scar stood up and stretched his hand over his head. I'm aware, but aware as you, I'm aware as you are of a low level. Scar all but hightailed it out of the room as Cub stood up so fast. His eyes were glowing dangerous blue as Green froze in his place, standing from his chair. Cub flicked his eyes to Green, and as he saw his fearful face, Cub smiled, raised a hand to his lips, and reached down and opened a drawer, pulling out a round, palm-sized object. Before Green could even question it, he reared back and threw it through his door at a truly alarming speed. Youch! Green heard a Scar shout from just outside the doors. The ridiculous sound made Green unfreeze with a cackle. He brought a hand up to cover his smile as he turned back to Cub, who had already sat back down and started writing as if nothing happened. It just made Green laugh again, and if he was paying attention, he might have seen Cub smile back. But as it is, Green took his leave and met Scar just outside the doors waiting for the elevator. He was rubbing his head with a pout on his face. The ball that Cub had thrown off to the side against the opposite wall. Giggling still, Green picked it up and decided that it was his now, just in case he needed it for similar reasons. The elevator doors opened and they both walked in side by side. Slowly, Green's giggling subsided with a deep breath and sigh. Scar was still rubbing his head with a slight scowl, but he asked for it, so Green didn't feel too bad about it. I thought you said it was a mutual joke. That didn't look very mutual. Green poked, tossing the ball from hand to hand. It was quite rubbery, so possibly a bouncy ball. No, he loves it, I swear. Scar counters, though Green, for some reason, doesn't really believe him. It makes him laugh, pocketing the ball to put away later. He feels one of his wings give a gentle flick, like a feather is out of place, so he brings it around to his front and carts his hands through it trying to find it. And once he does, he fixes it with a content cue before flexing it back behind him. I'm glad you're doing better. Scar speaks gently, still making him jump somehow. What do you mean? Green asks as the elevator doors open. They are back on their living level, probably to get ready for wherever they're going on mission tonight. Well, you seemed a bit out of it this morning. Are you okay? Scar asks, seemingly genuinely concerned. Just had a bad dream last night is all. Green smooths off. Want to talk about it? And that's the question, isn't it? He doesn't, not really. But also, the only way to get to the bottom of it is to talk about it. Unfortunately, open and honest communication. Gross. Maybe he can just, get vague information from Scar without actually revealing anything that might make him sound weird. And that way they both learn more about each other's missing families so they can actually start to help each other follow his plan. Sure. Green draws out, regretting it as it comes out of his mouth. Scar upturns a dazzling smile as they finally get to Green's door. How about we make some brunch at your place and we can talk some more. We have to talk about the mission more anyways. Might as well kill 3 birds with 1 stone. He says way too happily. Green just smiles and opens the door, letting them both in. Scar immediately starts to raid his fridge, which is fine by him. He may have a fully stocked kitchen, but that doesn't mean he knows how to use it. But Scar seems to know what he's doing, so he'll just leave him be. Green takes a seat at the bar so he's still facing Scar, and just watches him kicking his feet back and forth. Do you like fried rice? He asks, pulling a pan from a drawer he didn't even realize had pans in it. Sure. he answers, laying down and placing his chin in his hands and elbows on the counter. As long as there's no onions, I'm good. Of course, I never. He laughs, finding a bag of fruit and vegetables. Vegetable fried rice it is. He starts heating some oil on the stove, and again, Grian's glad it's not him. There would be a fire by now, probably. Grabbing some rice and a pot of water, Scar turns his back to Grian and continues putting vegetables into the pan and doing something. With his back turned to Grian, just continued to watch. It was quiet, but nice to hear the sounds of someone cooking. Domestic in a way that Grian hasn't felt in over 3 years. Mumbo used to love to cook. Every night, as long as he wasn't too caught up with learning new dust techniques, he would make some new recipe that he had found from a magazine or something. So, what was your dream about? Scar asks, not turning around and drawing Grian from his thoughts. Oh yeah, he said he would talk about his dream. I'm not quite sure. It just left me feeling weird. Like, you know that feeling when you are forgetting something but don't know what? Scar hums from his place in front of the stove. It was like that, I think. I think you were there? I didn't want to give too much away, but that seems like a good place to start. Then again, maybe not, since Scar paused what he was doing, still not looking at Grian. After a silent moment, he restarts himself, going back to stirring the vegetables in the pan, adding some spices from the cabinet above. Oh, what did I say? He asked calmly, oddly calm for how Scar typically acts. Nothing much, just being annoying like usual. Trying to elevate whatever weird air he's made. It works, as Scar spins around and points his spatula at him menacingly. I am not! He protests annoyingly. It makes Grian laugh, putting his hands up with a smirk. Of course not! Course not. You bet, I'm the best around! He spins back around and goes to test the rice. Grian goes back to watching him quietly, debating on how to secretly ask Scar questions without being too obvious. You know, my sister, she's a terrible cook. Worse than me, really. If she could set fire to water, it'd happen. Scar snorts, cracking some eggs into the pan. I'm glad I had my other friend who loved to cook, or else we probably would have starved in my apartment. Red was like that. Bingo. Loved to cook, but was usually too busy. He was always wrapped up in some redstone business that none of us understood, so we just left him to it. I also like to cook, so I picked up the slack whenever I could. We do have a cafe too, so it was never dire. He laughs, adding the rice. Did they ever treat you differently? Differently? 'Cause you were newer, I mean? The question gives Scar pause, like he wasn't expecting the question to be so serious, and it makes Grian cringe. Why was he even asking this anyways? 'Cause he was upset that weirdo dream him and Bodum were kind of mean to Scar? That doesn't exist? Sometimes. That's the worst answer Scar could have given. Especially in the beginning. But they always treated me kindly and welcomed me into the group. There were just times they forgot I was their hero too, and would treat me like I was a baby or something. Scar chuckles a spite-filled laugh. If only they could see me now. He grabs some bowls and portions out the fried rice. Grian felt weirdly guilty making him talk about these people he misses so much. But they want to find them. Then he has to know more about them, right? Right? Here you are. With a small flourish, he slides a bowl piled with steaming fried rice. It smells really good. It has been a long time since he had a true home-cooked meal. Even longer since someone else made it for him. Scar comes around the bar and pulls out the chair to take a seat next to him. Together they start eating, and Green is pleasantly surprised. "This is really good," he says muffled as he shoves his spoon into his mouth. Scar tilts his head back with a bark of laughter. "Why, thank you." He smiles, going back to his own bowl. The two finished off their bowls, Green quicker than Scar, but who's really counting, and put their dishes in the sink for Green to clean later. Together they moved to his couch, sitting a little closer than strictly necessary to each other. It made his burn brain happy. Sue him. "You know," Scar starts, leaning back until his head touches the back of the couch, and he's facing the vaulted ceiling. Green follows his lead, leaning back, but he's not tall enough to place his head over the top like Scar. "I've told you a lot about my tragically missing family, but I know nothing about yours." Scar huffs a small laugh, and the statement makes Green's heartbeat pick up a little. It's weird having Scar be so casual about all this, especially considering it's literally the only reason Green is sitting here right now. This whole hero business was just a ploy to get information, and now he's kind of stuck here. And while it isn't without no complaints, he will admit that so far it's not so bad here. He'd be sad to leave when he gets everyone back. He reluctantly realizes he'll have to leave Scar behind so he isn't, thrown in some sort of AWOL jail. But he will just have to cross that bridge when he gets there. Not if, when. The implied question does catch him a bit off guard, though. Scar wants to know about his little vigilante family, and knowing Scar's thoughts on vigilantes, he won't be too pleased. Then again, Green's here, and they are friends now, so it'll probably be more funny than anything. Tilting his head back and forth, Green makes up his mind. What could it hurt? If they were helping each other, then mutual trust must be important. And maybe if he tells Scar his story, then he'll be more willing to share what happened to Bodum. The real story, that is. "What do you want to know?" Green instead settles on, starting to fidget with his fingers. "Well, I suppose, first off, I know you are lying about why you became a hero." He turns his head to look at Green with a smirk. Green feels his feathers ruffle at being called out. "How would you know?" He narrows his eyes. "Your wings twitch when you lie. It's okay, pretty much every hero lies about their backstory. Especially to the public." He laughs. "The media thinks I come from a nuclear family with a mom, dad, and sister, and that we were lower middle class and that my powers gave them a better life or something. They eat it up." "And that's not true?" Green wagers with a frown. "No, it's really not, but this isn't about me." He hastily changes the subject. "I want to know about you." He forces a laugh and Green gets the hint. Whatever happened there isn't something Scar really wants to get into. Well, I wasn't lying about all of my story. Parents killed in the war, sister and I saved by the vigilante crow." Green is counting on his claws as if trying to keep the story straight. He said it so many times recently, it's like reciting a poem. It doesn't really affect him anymore, so he doesn't really care. "But then we were put in foster care until I turned 18. My sister was 15. But when they kicked me out, I took her and ran because we were going to get split up." "That sounds awful," Scar hesitantly says. He shrugs, putting his hands down. "It happens. I was able to do odd jobs, but after a while I decided to become a vigilante. I could make more by doing morally gray activities." He laughed at Scar's deadpan face. He gracefully ignored him, though, and continued. "After a while, I met some like-minded people." Scar scoffs and Green laughs. "Other vigilantes, I presume." He crosses his arms with a mock disappointed look. "Yep." Green chirps back with a small smile. I didn't really have a name, just went by G, but my sister went by Pigeon, and the other two were Impy and Jumbo. He feels Scar turn to look at him with something close to disbelief on his face, but is soon shaken off. It makes Green tilt his head with a questioning coo. Nothing, just never heard of those vigilantes before. Scar says evenly. Weird, Green notes, but not any weirder than Scar normally is. Well, yeah, we tried really hard to stay away from public view. We knew getting that attention would be bad, so we just helped each other when needed. Pidge was doing well with her low-level shadow manipulation. She had wings too, but they were small and underdeveloped. We joked that I took all the good avian genes from our parents and left the rest for her. She didn't mind, though. Both Green and Scar huffed a laugh, though Scar seemed to hold back and make sure he could before he did. Courtesy and all that. He doesn't know what he is giving out, why he is giving out so much of this story to Scar. It doesn't matter. Scar didn't need to know this much. All he needed to know was just the ending. But it was almost as if once he opened his mouth, he couldn't stop. He never actually had anyone to talk about with. When they disappeared, he was just alone. Which he assured himself was fine. He was so wrapped up in trying to find them that he never once considered getting help, or finding somebody to talk to. He felt his breath hitch, and his eyes go a bit misty. He suddenly brought his hand up to rub at his eyes. The last thing he needs is for Scar to see him weak. He spent all this time alone. He won't cry, just talking about people he will find again. Jumbo was an amazing shapeshifter, and by amazing I mean annoying, he says with a fond, sad smile. He can feel his wings start to droop the longer he talks about his missing family. He suddenly understands why Scar hates to do it. He used to become a bird just to fly with me, and also squawk as loud as possible in my ear. Sounds like someone I know. Scar tries to lighten the mood. It works a little, getting a smile out of Green. Impy always liked using his power during patrols. Light manipulation was never easy for him, but he took every opportunity to practice. He was getting pretty good at it before. He sucked a sudden breath in, remembering the reason he's even telling Scar all of this. He was sorely losing a battle with trying not to cry in front of Scar. We only worked together for like 6 months before they disappeared one day. That's why you never heard of us. Green feels his chest grow a bit tight as he thinks of the next part of the story. We all went to bed in my apartment one night after patrolling, and when I woke up, I was alone. No notes, no evidence. I looked for days. He feels his hand shake a bit as he looks up at Scar. Days, and nobody has seen or heard a thing. I don't know what happened, but I will find them. My theory is that when we were patrolling, we were being tailed by some gang or something as we went home, and during the night they were kidnapped. He feels a hand take his, holding it still as a single tear travels down his cheek. Oh, buddy. Scar pulls him closer, reaching his other hand around him and tugging him into a hug. Green doesn't even try to pretend he was okay, just reaching his other hand around Scar and crying softly into his shoulder. It's all right. We will find them. You have a lot of ideas on what happened, and now you have me. And the archive. We will find them, I promise. He rubs small circles in the center of his back, right by his wings. And while it felt great and was making him feel better, if he's not careful, this whole mess will send him into bird mode, which would not be fun. So reluctantly, with one last squeeze, Green pulls back, sniffling while rubbing his eyes. Scar keeps one hand on his shoulder, and after Grian's, puts his other hand in his lap. Scar takes it back in his hand. Thanks. I guess we're even now. We've both seen each other cry. He laughs sadly, and Scar laughs with it. I suppose you're right. It's called bonding, Grian. We are trauma bonded now. He says it with such a stupidly blinding smile that Grian can't help but double over laughing. What? What did I say? Scar asked, genuinely, with his hands still exactly where they were before Grian moved. He looks so genuinely confused that Grian keeps laughing. That's not how that works. He falls back onto the couch, punching Scar's arm, but seemingly grabbing his hand again. Oh, well, we are still bonded then, he says, raising their clasped hands, laughing. They both lean back, giggling every once in a while, squeezing each other's hands whenever they feel the need for the reminder the other is there. But after a while of pure, comfortable silence, Scar suddenly sighs. It grabs Grian's attention as he turns his head to look at him. Well, if it was up to me, we would march right downstairs and search the whole archive until we found something. He brings his free hand up to rub his eyes, pushing his glasses up while his eyes are closed. Still, Grian looks away, but now he's more scared of what he'll see. But unfortunately, he pulls his glasses back down, reaching into his pocket, pulling out a folded slip of paper. The mission. With one hand, he starts to unfold the papers. He has a regretful look on his face as he does so. Grian groans, sliding on the couch dramatically. He had forgotten about the dumb mission. It is only late morning, and all he wants to do is curl back into his nest and wallow for a while. Maybe, just maybe, he could go a little birdie with Scar here. Do we have to? He coos, purposefully following onto Scar's shoulder. It surprises him enough to almost drop the papers. He laughs as he's looking down to Grian, who has pulled out all the stops and is giving the best puppy eyes he can muster. It must come out short since he's getting laughed at. We kind of have to, Birdie, unless you have a better plan. He places the papers on the coffee table, and Grian knows he's winning. He feels his wings flutter and his eyes dilate just a bit while he looks at Scar, just to cement his place in getting in his way. Oh, I see what's going on here. Scar laughs. Grian narrows his eyes, and while he's sure that Scar really does know, he doesn't know how he feels about Scar knowing a different avian. He chirps in displeasure, which only makes Scar laugh again. All right, fine, you have a long morning. He pulls on Grian's arm until he all but falls into his lap. He chirps and curls up a bit around Scar's legs. Not what he was expecting, but he'll take it. Can I preen your wings? The question splits Grian in half. His avian side is flying with joy at the thoughts, but his more human and traumatized side says he's already been so open and vulnerable, he shouldn't do it anymore today. But he's so tired and overwhelmed from just the past 2 days, maybe he deserves something good. And even if this means something important to both Scar and Grian, he knows neither of them will say a word. So with a small shuffle and coo, Grian relaxes his wings in his own version of an answer. But Scar understood with a huff. Grian letting out a pleased cheep as Scar started running his hands through his wings. He felt himself relax into the feeling as he reached further down than just the maintenance breathing he did earlier. He missed this, and he didn't even realize he did. He feels nostalgic, like this should be something he was used to. something that he's done hundreds and hundreds of times. One thing felt missing, though. With his eyes closed and honestly half asleep, he blindly threw his hand out, reaching for the record player. Feeling for the switch, he felt his claws graze it, so he turned it over, hearing the music he had turned off earlier start right where it left off. Pleased, he brought his hand back with a coo and smile. Now this was nostalgic and peaceful, except for the fact Scar stopped moving. He let out a satisfied chirp, opening one eye to try and look up at him, but his wings were in the way. Where did you get these records? Scar asked, a little stilted. Unfortunately, Green was not in the right mind to answer, nor quite understand the question. Instead, he lifted his wings back into Scar's hands impatiently. The hero hesitated, but went back to running his hands through without speaking again. And that was the last waking thought he had before passing out in Scar's lap. And that is the end of Chapter 10.